At the moment that you look for the welfare of others, you look for the welfare for yourself.
Yes.
So if God is love and this is love and you have come to God and that you know Jesus, are you willing to share God and Jesus and whatever he has done to you and your life?
How are you?
I'm fine. What about you? Good to see you.
It's nice to finally see you in person, so to speak.
She's wearing her Guatemala textiles. Pretty.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Wow.
It's what the
So,
team gave me. Yeah, the gift. They told me this one is from a region from Chimaltenango that is to the west side of Guatemala, kind of highlands. They are created, manufactured thread by thread, thread by thread,
really?
handmade. Yes.
Wow.
So these probably could have taken around, let's say, 6 months or so. So everything is handmade. Yes. So
That's
everything
awesome.
that you may come and see is handmade.
Wow. Well,
Yes.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, so the podcast, we are here to talk about some things that you are doing, you and David are doing in Guatemala. But I want to start with how you got into church. Tell
How
me
I
about
got
that.
into church.
Yeah.
Well, I was born and raised in a Catholic home,
Yes.
and I was taken to church actually when I was like in my teenage years.
Uh-huh.
And that's where I started growing there and walking through that path. And then that's where that took me to my adult years. I remember, like, in children's ministry, and I started also, I was pulled by one of my former teachers as a English Spanish interpreter for the simultaneous ministry.
Okay, so you've been involved in church a long time.
Yeah, for a long time. Well, I took a pause.
You did. Well,
Yes.
I took a pause, it happens. I'm just happy that you continued and that you got back into it. So you started in children's ministry?
Yeah, I was very young when I did that, when I started doing that. And I saw myself, and now that I'm going back to those years, thinking with everything that we have started working with David, is that I wasn't trained, even though I was like involved in churches where it was the people attending there, they were like high class kind of. So I just remember that down the road I only received one training, and that was it. Along with the ministry, going to church, then I had stopped the children's ministry because I was more into the simultaneous interpretation ministry. I was attending what we call here university. You call it up there college. So I was still there, but I went in everything that had to do with education. So that's how I finally got trained, but I was already out of the ministry of the children's ministry
Uh-huh.
by then. Uh-huh.
Gotcha. Okay. So
Uh-huh.
you have simultaneous interpretation
Mm-hmm.
and education. So are
Mm-hmm.
those your two main focuses in your adult ministry?
Yes, and then some years later, I went back to nursery ministry, because then I went and became part of a very like small church. At this church, it was lower level economic class people,
Yeah.
so I decided to belong there because we were close to the section or areas of very poor people. So I decided to work there instead of staying at the big mega churches here.
The Bible talks a lot about serving the orphans and the poor and being there for them. And so how how did that influence your ministry today? It influenced the focus of your ministry, your decision to be with the lower economic areas instead of following that opportunity in the big areas.
It's been like a chain of events in my life, but since I was studying more in education, then on the part that was like the secular job, not actually the Christian job, one of my teachers, he was the CEO of this organization. They asked me to join an NGO, and it was, poverty and extreme poverty in Guatemala, marginal areas, red zones. I worked with youth at risk, childhood at risk, the subcultures of the streets.
Hmm.
So, yeah, and I did work with gang members.
Wow.
And that was like something very strong in myself that I felt like that was my real calling, my real mission in life. And I was there, but I was like the multitask
Yeah.
person there, because I was the English teacher for all the schools. I was the English coordinator for all the entire project, and there it had many like mini projects in there. Then my boss and the general director and the CEO, they created like a strategic allegiance with it is a very prestigious institution in Latin America that is in Mexico, that is called the Instituto Tecnológico de Estudios Superiores de Monterrey. They've developed a social program that is called CCA. The CCA stands for Community Centers of Learning. So I was also the coordinator of that program.
Wow.
So I had to check on and I also became the sub-director of the pedagogical areas as well. Also translating projects, receiving volunteers coming from Canada, interpreting for
My goodness.
yeah, it was like I was like there, but it was like also assisting for the general director tasks, for the executive office, for this technical director. My programs, that was the CCA with Tec de Monterrey, the English areas, getting donations or books, and I went to this very generous press or editorials that we have here, Cambridge University Press and Oxford University Press. The heads of those both companies, they had been my teachers, so they said, hey, whenever. So I was full 5 schools, they had books,
Oh
English
my.
books. Also, one of the things that the CEO said, hey, Rachel, you're going to be in charge of the Canadians that speak English. So you have them, because the rest, the huge majority, they spoke French.
Oh
So
yeah.
French, nothing. I was like, they were playing with me. Ah, you need to learn French. And I was like, hi, the more I can say is je t'aime,
Oh
and that's it.
man. With all that you were doing at the time, I wouldn't have time to even consider learning French. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
and then my students, they were playing jokes with me because I had Caxiquel students, which is one of our languages here. Caxiquel has 5 variants here in Guatemala, as far as I found out.
Wow.
And they were from Chimaltenango, and they were saying, "Hey, teacher, we're going to teach you one word a day." And then the next day was, "Oh, did you remember the word?" And I was like, "No, my dear." Yeah, the
Oh
most I
boy.
can say is like Utzipetik, Kotsik that means I guess welcome or really nice, and Kotsik means something really cute.
Yeah.
Something like, yeah, yeah. So something like saying in Italian, cucciolino, something like that.
Oh
Yeah,
wow. Well, you've
yeah.
done quite a lot.
Yeah, and also, so I saw in that moment that it was like, there is a lot of needs here in Guatemala. I don't have to travel that far to see that there are very needy areas here in Guatemala, but it is like I was sharing with David that we get the vicarious syndrome that we really want to do everything. We want to cover all needs. We want to, but unfortunately, you want to do that, but you cannot do it without this word, money.
Okay. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So actually, well, this was started and we were having some conversations here and there. I saw the fact of doing something like missions far away with my life. And here I am.
So with all of that, you mentioned the needs of the area, you mentioned the socioeconomics of the area, how it's, how you're trying to help these impoverished people learn about Jesus, learn about the Bible, learn about God, and there's so many things that go into that. You have to have compassion for them. You have to be a service to the people. And so, first question I want to ask is what led you to the House of David, and how what is your vision for the House of David? What is your and David's vision of that?
Okay, as for House of David, our vision is actually to serve people in a holistic way. It is through the churches. The churches are our bridges or our links to the communities.
Yeah.
That is our vision because I am a strong believer that you cannot go into the gospel, share the gospel in empty stomachs,
Mhm.
uneducated brains. You cannot go and say Jesus loves you, but yeah, the person hasn't eaten for one day. And yeah, but the person is very cold because of the cold days. So I am kind of like, you know, uh, a strong believer of that gospel has to be holistic because,
Yes.
Jesus' teachings was, the sermon, fish and bread. He first fed people and then he taught. And also, our focus is as well education, nutrition. If we cannot go and share the gospel in sick bodies,
Hmm.
so we have to be, aware and sensible to these things because once you have been hit by malnutrition, brain, ears, sight,
Yeah.
their damages are something that you cannot reverse that. Even though you get the best vitamins in the market for children, it's something irreversible. So we have heard of something that really hit me hard some days ago. We're trying to do all attempts of doing the following. Um, with David, with House of David, we're saying we are going to go small, but God is not calling us for something small because the demand is so big, so high that we really need to elevate our standards so that we've been hearing that there is a pastor that he takes care of some areas in the dry corridor, they call it here. It's like very desertic areas here. People, to try to mitigate their hunger, is that they get cardboard boxes, they add water, and that's what they eat.
Oh my.
So it is like it's not possible that we have gotten to that point, and I just cannot do it. I cannot go there with a bulk of Bibles and saying, here, your Bibles, but there's no bread, there's no nothing there.
Wow.
So we are making efforts and attempts to connect these pastors to food resources.
Oh wow.
you
That's amazing.
know, and that's one of the things. And even though we said with David, we are going to focus ourselves with two pastors, that is Pastor Victorina and Pastor Helio. These two pastors, we want to pay attention to them too. But then into the equation, we are having these other two pastors too. Even though Pastor Victorina, she's been leading other churches in very needy communities that they are very distant from the city from where she is. That's what we are trying to pay attention. Also, Pastor Helio, he also attends to people who are in poverty as well. So we believe that, and this is research, um, poverty is caused by bad education or no access to education. So we want to see the way of paying attention to that, because still though I cannot go with the gospel, but there is no good education and everything is social process. With
Yep.
social processes are not instant,
No.
unfortunately. I want to have the magic wand, but no.
Yes.
When Rachel told me this story about these kids eating cardboard, I can't believe it. I thought, no way. And we did the research and we talked to the pastor, and he did, he responded back saying that, yeah, these kids do eat for the hunger cardboard. And so for me, when I heard that, and then I go to a restaurant and I see this family over there complaining about their food, and I'm thinking, you know what? There's kids over there that wish they had something like you had, but they can't. They eat cardboard, you know. So that's touched my heart. I hope it touches a lot of people's heart in this.
Well, and that just, a lot of people just aren't aware of the need.
Very true.
And we can so easily fall into that trap of being complacent and unappreciative. And to speak to your point, about the necessity for providing this holistic care, the Bible actually talks about in James 2, it says, if a brother or sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, and one of you says to them, go in peace, be warmed and be filled, without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is that? So
Exactly.
also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead.
Exactly.
And your
Yes.
mission here requires an immense amount of faith and
Yeah.
preparing and funding and the process isn't instant, as you were saying. Unfortunately, it takes a lot of work. And
Exactly.
and so, the purpose of this podcast is as many people as we can show it to, we're going to show it to them, and to bring this kind of awareness to these issues that real people are facing in real time, and you guys are doing your best to help the situation and attack it at the source, which I really respect the fact that you guys are into education, especially education of children, trying to fix the economic problem through the best means you can, and the source of the problem is the education and the holistic care that these people are not getting.
That's
And
right.
Exactly. Exactly. And well, David is, we're witness that we were there in those areas. There were no schools, there was no health center, nothing, no hospitals. Streets are not streets, those are paths,
yeah.
very small paths. And I believe the previous podcast it was already mentioned that children 5 year old they are taken to work picking up coffee beans, working in that. So they are not sending them to school. Stolen childhood.
I would love to talk more about, how we can get this out, to get it seen by as many people as we can, just to highlight the issue and to see, people would invest and help. We live comfortably, we live nicely, and there are those people that you guys are trying to help that don't. And the Bible talks about being generous with our time, with our resources, and you guys are doing it. And I can appreciate that, and I think a lot of other people can appreciate that as well. Anything else that you want to bring out?
Just reinforcing the verse that you brought up, that is one of our biblical bases for House of David. The other one is in Jeremiah, stating that at the moment that you look for the welfare of others, you look for the welfare for yourself.
Yes.
So if God is love and this is love, and you have come to God and that you know Jesus, are you willing to share God and Jesus and whatever He has done to you and your life? So, whatever ways of what people would like to donate to help this cause, because it's not our cause, it is everyone's cause.
Yes.
We are in this world, we are together.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, sharing a little bit of the ab abundant love of what God has given to anyone, it wouldn't hurt, it wouldn't affect. So, and whatever donations that you would like to provide, not to us, because we are not keeping a penny for us.
Yeah.
So whatever, if you decided to do it, let's say money, then we will always present an invoice and we will always provide evidence that we are delivering the help, the resources. We are not keeping anything to ourselves. Even though in some of the times it may take a little bit of a lot of time to get something, but we are there.
Right.
We are not living out of House of David. I depend on my job like full time or more than a full time job. David is back to work. We are doing a little bit of selling coffee there in the United States from Guatemala. We are doing a lot of things together. Still, we have our jobs. And then the time that I don't have like extra time or spare time, it says I make the time for House of David to create the plans, to create blueprints, to help the pastors in some way, somehow, the best way we can. We cannot do everything, even though we have very little few communities, but we try our best. So if anybody wants to come and join us, and we welcome everybody, and whatever donation of resources, whatever. There was a lady that she donated toothbrushes, toothpastes. We received that with love. If somebody was there, okay, donated crayons. We received that with love. You want to donate time? Come with us.
Yeah.
So, so we have a lot of work to do.
Yes. So the trip, that's one other thing that I wanted to talk about. The last thing I want to talk about, the trip. Um, Give us some details and things about the trip. Like what what do you want to do with the people who are willing to help, the people that are going with you? What are they going to be doing?
David?
Our trip is in June 23rd through July 1st. We are working with Pastor Helio. He is doing a children's outreach for his church, and he has invited us to come down and to work with his church. And the reasons to help out is in Vacation Bible School. He had over 80 kids. Okay, it was
Wow.
great.
Yeah.
And since that has come down, the average one 25, 30 kids. So we're trying to figure out like, okay, so how can we keep these kids to come back and stay in church? And so we've been talking to him, not just Rachel and I, we've had other people and team members. We come up with some ideas, and I think this is where Rachel can tell you and tell others to come down. What are they looking for and what they can do that are coming down there. And I think Rachel can, process that part.
Yeah.
Yes, so actually, the idea to work with Pastor Helio is yes, doing an outreach for children, but also to moms of children. So also Sunday school teachers or teachers in general. So whatever talent anybody has in the team. For example, we have one lady who has had 40 years of experience teaching children. So in the autistic areas, but the techniques could be applicable children any ages, and all the techniques and all the experience. So she will prepare like workshops for teachers to do teaching strategies, managing behaviors, techniques. So everything that is hands-on to equip children. So our main focus or strong focus is going to be that whatever the talents are, keep the learnings for the people here so they can apply them with the children, with the moms, with the pastors. So if they're, for example, in the hypothetical event that we have a pastor coming down here in with the team, so we will put that pastor to train Pastor Helio in anything that he may feel, okay, I need this. And if the pastor is willing to do it, welcome.
Wow.
So if we have musicians, so techniques. So that's what we like to share, or new songs, or anything, or what is the heart of a person that is involved into the worship and praising ministry. So what is your heart like to be? So and also that's what I would like to keep. And even maybe I may have a stylist. So hey, let's teach ladies how to do hairstyling things. So maybe
Yeah.
this will be cool. Something like they can make a little bit of money,
Uh-huh.
something that they can learn, like on the spot.
Yeah.
And yeah, and we make all this mission trip. Women don't cry. Women make money.
That's
So
awesome.
because pastors, they need prosperous people. So
Yeah.
we become prosperous all together in
Wow.
our spirit, in our soul, in our pockets, healthy lives, healthy everything.
So anyone, who has a talent, who feels that they're not serving the ministry quite as much as they want to be, that I know people personally that would love to serve in a higher capacity in the ministry, and they have skills that aren't necessarily utilized in North American church, or yeah, North American churches, um, that would be invaluable down there.
Yes.
And
So if we had an economist, I want that person. If we have a mathematician, I want that person. If we had an astronaut, I want that person here.
yeah, it's a great opportunity. It's a great
Yes.
opportunity.
So I'm following an advice from one of my former teachers, a friend. So and friend now, it's my mentor, but her name is Eva. She emphasized that idea. Okay, uh, keep them, but learnings to be kept, learnings to work on. So that really came to be like reinforcing those answers. So that is what is it that we need to do? What is our focus? What are our goals? So yes, it's part of that.
Everybody's welcome. I think that's one of our main things too in the House of David. Everybody's welcome.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to come to trip, you're Catholic, whatever, I don't care what religion, we all work in the body of Christ. And I've been trying to emphasize that, hey, we work together.
Yeah.
I don't care what denomination you're from, we work together. And that's what excites me, that in this team, man, we're seeing diversity of different backgrounds. And I'm thinking that's okay. We need that.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I'm really excited about that. And I'm excited for what, I'm going to put Will here in the spot, but I think, Will, you have a gift of teaching. You really do. You're very good. In the Bible, and I'm thinking, I think this trip be open many doors for you. And I just believe that God's putting the right people on His team. It's God, not me.
Right.
I just, people ask and they say, "Hey, you welcome to come." So yes, everybody's welcome to come on this missions team trip. Rachel.
Yes, and on top of that, just sharing with you, there are many children that they are out of the scholar system. There's no access. So we already proposed something. It took me several months to work on that. I ended up blueprint in December. So they have to work on that. They'll see how we can put our efforts together to call this, a plan, a dream, achieve it. So they become a center of attention in which they can bring in children so they can do their elementary, junior high, all the way to the high school. We also share with them the opportunities of having people, the youth and adults, young adults, to be able to apply for scholarships here in Guatemala and out of Guatemala. They can even go and apply in Japan if they like to. So I have the contact with them. Um, you know, uh, uh, Promoting reading clubs. We have the person already who is willing to give that training, and they work for an organization of that they have open many community libraries here in Guatemala. So we have that resource as well. So we share several resources, right? And also we are digging into other types of very active education here in Guatemala that can benefit these communities.
Good. Very good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very good. Well,
Yes.
Rachel, thank you so much for the
Thanks to
opportunity
you.
to get to talk to you about this.
Oh, thank you.
I'm really, really, really hoping that people latch onto this and start seeing what House of David is doing for these communities here and there in Guatemala. And so, David, thank you for coming on, and
Thank you.
Thank you,
Rachel, thank
Will.
you.
Thank you, David.
Um, and I hope to do this again. I hope to do this again sometime very soon.
Yeah, so maybe we can check on the progress of our actions and our
Yes,
steps. And yes,
yes,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
yes. You
So,
guys need more exposure down there, and
yeah,
on social media and getting things out there on the
yeah,
ground, on the ground where you guys are at, where you guys are working, and
exactly.
everything that's taking place. So
We already have our socials there,
good.
Facebook fan page, House of David / Casa de David, and also in Instagram. You may follow us. And there is a report of our uh, trip in December as
Good.
well, what we did, where we did, what we were doing, where we were going, and everything.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's great.
awesome. Well, thank you very much for this time, and thank you for everything and spreading the word, and pray for us, please.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Hmm.
Well,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank
And
you.
we'll see you next
Good.
time.
All
All
See
right.
you
right.
next time. Stay tuned.